Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm told that the ambassador from Bangladesh is here. Thank you, sir, for being here. But more importantly, thank you for what your country, one of the poorest countries in the world, is doing to take care of hundreds of thousands of refugees. I'd also like to introduce the ambassador of Burma, but unfortunately I can't because that ambassador is not here. If that ambassador were here, that ambassador could find out what the world thinks of the policy of the Burmese government toward hundreds of thousands of its own citizens. A humanitarian tragedy is unfolding in Burma, which is also referred to as Myanmar. Burma's military, the Tatmadaw, moved against the Rohingya population after an August 25th attack by Rohingya militants on Burmese security forces. And nearly 500,000 Rohingya Muslim refugees have fled their homeland in the Rakhine state following Burmese military operations against them. The UN High Commission for Human Rights noted that this situation seems to be a textbook example of ethnic cleansing. Late last year, something similar occurred on a smaller scale when an estimated 60,000 to 90,000 Rohingyas fled to Bangladesh as a result of Burmese military operations that have followed an October 2016 Rohingya militant attack on border police. The vast majority of those who fled to Bangladesh, which is, as I pointed out, already impoverished and overcrowded, so the vast majority have fled there. Roughly 40,000 fled to India. Unfortunately, media reports indicate that India's border security forces are attempting to prevent Rohingya from entering India through Bangladesh amidst the ongoing exodus from Burma, including the reported use of stun guns and pepper grenades. However, I should point out that the international law is different for Bangladesh, which is the first resting place of those fleeing. Once people are in Bangladesh, they're not being oppressed, although they are not economically viable at the present time. And so whether India has an obligation to accept them from Bangladesh is subject that perhaps our witnesses can get into. The United States has led an international response to protect we've led the international response to protect Muslims in Kosovo and in Bosnia against Serb aggression. We need to play a role, along with others, in protecting the Rohingya and dealing with the humanitarian needs. And we also need to make sure that the Muslim world realizes that we are the only country to bomb a Christian nation, Serbia, for the defense of Muslims, something that is not widely focused on in the Muslim world. The administration should work to ensure that the physical needs of hundreds of thousands of refugees are provided for, secure a halt to Burmese military operations against the Rohingya, secure a safe return of the Rohingya population back to Burma, demand that Burma end decades of discrimination against the Rohingya, including addressing cases of appropriated land, citizenship rights, political representation, a lack of free movement, and economic improvements. This is especially necessary is citizenship rights. The idea that a people could live in a country generation after generation and still be called foreigners under that country's laws is simply outrageous. We are to urge the United Nations Security Council to establish a UN Security Council probe a commission on Burmese ethnic cleansing against the Rohingya, and urge the United Nations Security Council to establish a UN-monitored safe zone for the Rohingya in Rakhine State to protect it from future mass killings. The Burmese government says it will allow the return of these refugees, catch-22, when they provide proof of nationality. But since 1982, the Burmese government has stripped the Rohingya of their citizenship making it impossible for them to prove Burmese nationality. This is outrageous. Every group of people on the earth has immigrated to where they live from somewhere else, since we all came from apparently Eastern Africa. And to say that you are not a citizen of a country because you cannot prove that your most ancient ancestors were born there would make us all citizens perhaps of Ethiopia and no citizens of any other country in the world. It is that I say that just to show how absurd the position is, to deny citizenship for people not only born in a country but whose parents and even grandparents were born in that country. The United States was closely involved in bringing democracy to Burma, a process that included elections in 2010 and 2015, the release of political prisoners, the formation of a civilian government, and the lifting of UN sanctions. The United States should also take the lead in upholding democratic practices, and democracy goes with fair treatment of minorities and a protection of minorities. It must press the Burmese government to end military operations against the Rohingya, accept the refugees back, and grant them citizenship. I think they're already legally citizens. Recognize that citizenship. In September of last year, I, along with other members of this subcommittee, met with Aung San Suu Kyi as the former administration decided to lift a number of economic sanctions on Burma. It's clear after the massacres and cleansing of October 2016 and the recent actions that we need to reevaluate that policy. Last week, the State Department announced the U.S. is providing an additional $32 million in humanitarian assistance. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses whether that's sufficient, and I yield back.
I thank the ranking